Welcome to MT. Hope you enjoy the video.
You realize our first glimpse of God was a God stooping over the earth to establish that this potter that Jeremiah is looking at is just a shadow of the real potter who stooped down, the living touching the lifeless. The celestial touching the terrestrial, the divine touching the human, the miraculous touching the mundane. We have a God who can stoop. Oh God. And as the potter stoops down and pulls up the clay, we get a picture of God's commitment to touch the lifeless. If there are any lifeless people listening at me and you cannot reach God, don't worry. He stoops. He will come where you are. He's not afraid to get his hands dirty. He's not afraid to get down into the muddy, messy business of formation. Some people only want a finished product. I listened to them talking about dating before the service started. Most people are dating looking for the finished product, but God is not looking for the finished product. He'll come and get into the messy business of formation. Oh, the living touching the lifeless is a picture of the incarnation itself. That God in his divinity would wrap himself up in humanity is holiness, dressed in wretchedness. The incarnation of Christ is the Word made flesh. The Word wrapped in clay. That's all he needed Mary for. He was the Word before Mary's mama met her daddy. But he said, Mary, I need to borrow some clay. And the Spirit of God came up on her. Not even saying a word when he did it, but it was to make the silent sermon that we call Jesus, who is the Word walking in the garden. Write that down, the Word walks. The Word walks. It's not just that the Word talks, it's that the Word walks. The Word walks. The Word walks. The walking Word is a picture of Jesus, a Jesus indicating to us that God stoops. In fact, Jesus himself is God stooping. Jesus himself is God reducing himself down to his lowest common denominator, that he could come on a plane that we could behold the wonder of his glory. When God got ready to stoop, he stooped in Jesus. No wonder he says that he is the potter and we are the clay.
This is what Joseph did in the scripture. He was mistreated for 13 years, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, put in prison for something that he didn't do. It wasn't easy, but he kept a good attitude, kept being his best. One morning, Joseph was sitting in prison, seemed like another ordinary day, when the guard came and said, Joseph, the Pharaoh wants to see you. I can imagine Joseph's thinking, the Pharaoh? I don't know him. I don't have an appointment. I'm a slave, a foreigner. I'm in prison, and the Pharaoh's calling for me. God knows how to have the right people come looking for you. You may feel like you're at a disadvantage. You're being overlooked. No, the one who matters most has his eyes on you. The one who controls the universe, the Most High God, is watching after you. He's working out his plan for your life. Joseph walked in and was standing in the presence of one of the most powerful people of that day. He interpreted the Pharaoh's dream. He was so impressed, he made Joseph the prime minister of Egypt, second in command. It happened quickly. Joseph didn't have to run for office. The Pharaoh didn't hold a vote. He didn't interview candidates for 6 months. Right on the spot, he made Joseph the prime minister. God knows how to do a quick work. The trouble, the injustice, it hurried out of Joseph's way. He woke up that morning a slave in prison. He went to bed that night the prime minister, promoted, vindicated. Don't be discouraged by what's not changing. Like Joseph, you may be doing the right thing and the wrong thing is happening. Your time is coming. God has these destiny moments where he's going to suddenly catapult you to a new level. It's not going to be a long process. It's going to happen quickly, unexpectedly. The right people are going to come looking for you. The promotion, the opportunity, the vindication is going to come tracking you down. After the Israelites came through the Red Sea, they wandered in the desert for 40 years. They thought their obstacles were too big, their enemies too strong. That kept them from going into the promised land. Now, years later, their children and grandchildren were about to cross the Jordan River and go into the land that God promised. The problem was the land was occupied with these incredibly strong, powerful people called the Anakites. They were descendants of giants. You can imagine how intimidated the Israelites must have felt. And standing at the brink of the Jordan, no doubt contemplating whether or not they should go in, God gave them a promise that helped push them over. He said in Deuteronomy 9, "Today you are about to see people that are much stronger and much more powerful. But the Lord your God will cross over ahead of you like a devouring fire. He will subdue them so that you can quickly conquer." Unlike their parents that talked themselves out of it, this new generation had the boldness to go in. Just like God promised, they quickly conquered the land.
Of course, in the beginning, I didn't know what people's reaction was going to be because they didn't know what I was going to be doing. But once people saw what I was doing, and there's, I hear from SEALs every podcast that comes out. My brothers, they send me a text and say, "That one was great, man," and so it's awesome. It's great stuff, and yeah, I'm not really afraid of what's going to happen if someone doesn't like what I'm doing. I'm okay with it.
What do you suggest to somebody who might be? Because I think there is a lot of people out there who have grand visions and ideas for what they want to do in the future, and for whatever reason, they're scared about failure or scared about the feedback or the ridicule from others. What do you say to somebody like that?
Well, if you're that scared of something, maybe you should just not do it and go away and hide somewhere else where no one will bother you, in a nice comfortable place, maybe with some nice pillows and a down blanket.
So just get over it is what you're saying.
Yeah, if you believe in what you're doing and you're doing it for the right reasons, there's nothing to be afraid of. What's the worst case scenario? So someone doesn't like what you're doing? Okay, cool. They can, especially if it's something, it's anything. What are you going to do? You're not forcing something down someone's throat. If you don't want to listen to this podcast, just turn it off. You don't want to look at what I built, don't look at it. You don't want to buy what I made, don't buy it. That's the way it is. That's the last thing you should be worried about, is like what other people are going to think of what you're doing, which actually there's a dichotomy of that, because, as you could hear when I just said about the SEAL teams, even though I don't really care what people are thinking, the people that you do care about, you want to do something that is going to make them proud. And so if you're thinking that what you're going to do is going to be viewed poorly by people that you respect, well, then maybe you should rethink what you're trying to do. But if you think people that you respect are going to like it, then you're on the right path. And if it's people that you don't care about or people that you don't respect and they don't like you, good. That's a badge of honor. Bring it.
The first person that should flesh out leadership is you. The first person that makes the decision to go forward is you. Lead yourself. I will promise you, start there. Start small. Start with you. When I was 25, I made a very important leadership decision that literally has changed my life. When I was 25, I made a decision that as a teacher, I would never teach something that I didn't 100% believe. And what that meant was I did a lot of things. I had a lot of subjects I didn't teach on. Are you with me? But I realized that the power, the life change, the passion all comes out of living it yourself. And once you start living it yourself, it is so amazing how people will begin to follow you. So don't leave this conference and go back and say, "Oh, let me tell you what I learned." No, don't tell them what you learned. Show them. My mentor for many, many years, John Wooden, used to say to me, "John, I would look at my players at UCLA and I would say to my players, don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do."
Last night, I was reading comments about subject matters. I did reply to some of my stuff. To your point, it was not, I remember when I was doing it, everyone's like, it's not sustainable. I'm like, and then it won't be.
Right.
I didn't have my pride in it. I knew that it was a nice thing to do. I was learning, I was making connections. I always, to this day, I think this way. This is why, hopefully, if some of you've met me, you've gotten a sense of me. I will never big time anybody. I came from the dirt.
Yeah.
Dirt. I don't have it in me to big time somebody. I promise you, every time somebody says, "Gary V," I'm so grateful, I'm so flattered, and so I will never take that for granted that somebody appreciates my work. I will go to the grave. And by the way, on the record, I don't even think I've started yet.
I love that statement.
I really am telling you the truth. Like, as you know, 10 years ago, I started making some juice. I'd already built a big business for my dad, so I had some credibility. And I'm in a totally different stratosphere than I was back then. And that's exactly how I feel right now of who I'm gonna be at 54, because I think I have good intent. I believe in what I'm doing. I'm working hard. I'm working fair. I'm doing the things that, lead to good things.
Thank you for watching our video. Check out our other motivational videos that will help you turn your life in positive direction.